A room with a view of the whole city. Fashion luxury, that's what he's got pretty.
I always receive a lot of inquiries from the Horn family, sometimes 10 to 15 per day. And then, of course, there are questions about how it is there, what is going on, what would you say here, how can I respond to that? And that is, of course, a nice form of communication in today's social media landscape, which is also important. And with that, I receive information and I can pass on the information I have to the Horn family so that even when traveling in today's world, which has become very difficult, one can still have pleasure, fun, and joy. Because, you know, the basic motto remains, it is about whether we are worth it to the companies, the airports, the airlines, the hotels, and the restaurants, that we receive good service, and that we naturally pay for it. And that is the win-win situation. But unfortunately, when one thinks of Hamburg Airport, there has been some retraining regarding security recently, and certain aspects are improving there. But it is far from optimal and still a long way from the satisfactory level of customer satisfaction that one would actually expect. For I keep noticing that, for example, employees in the security area also slow down the process. Whether they do it consciously or intentionally, that is the big question. So that's why I say that retraining is always necessary for these employees. However, it is evident that they delay things. I want to give an example. When there are 3 options, to fill the tub and guests are waiting there, it means that the security personnel are leaving and the employees simply cannot call the next one because they are waiting. Anyone who goes through security there does not simply want to approach security independently and take the thing out. This principle is simply not for everyone. Many are shy, many are reserved, and many do not want to make a mistake. And I mean, not everyone is like Horn, who obviously knows how the system works, and then independently and confidently takes his tub when the space is free. But if an employee from Hamburg Airport, as well as at other airports, does not see the guest and calls the guest over to fill the tub, the guest will have to stand there longer. And if that is 10 seconds with 100 guests, with 1,000 guests, or even with 5,000 guests, then a long queue will result. And this is the fault of this employee, because he may not have the drive or interest to push things forward. And when I notice that employees look outside and see the line getting longer because they are working so poorly, and perhaps even feel a sense of satisfaction inside, because they think, well, they have to stand in line again. I don't want to imply that, but it is the impression. Because if employees are well trained here and perhaps also well compensated accordingly, then this system would work. And it also requires monitoring to identify which employees are unable to operate this system effectively so that we can get through quickly. After all, it is for safety. Overall, regarding the refreshments, the Heinemann system with duty-free is still fantastic, with great friendly staff. You can spray yourself completely, apply cream, everything is free in that sense. You don't have to buy anything. You can also become a member and then you get discounts later on what you purchase. It's a great deal. And what is also something that could be looked into a bit more intensively is cleanliness. Cleanliness is still a challenge at Hamburg Airport. Also, regarding the issue with this fire protection part, I don't know if it will ever be repaired or if it has already been repaired. In any case, I can't see any progress there, but I could be mistaken in not recognizing it immediately. But what I have seen is that the fire protection wall still does not work there. So, one has to keep working on that. And since many travelers now do not have status or a credit card to access any lounges, many of them are naturally spending time at the airport overall. And there is this gourmet section, which I could perhaps refer to as an old gourmet, similar to Frosthansa. When you then go up to the first floor, you realize that only half of it is open. That means there is a kind of market. They have a little bit of everything, but somehow no one wants to get involved. Then there is this pizzeria where you can get pizza and stuff. Yeah, and gosh, and that burger that used to be there, it's somehow gone. They don't do anything anymore. So that means it's somehow pitch dark, and you can only see behind the facade that it says something like it should start in the summer, but we have summer. So from that perspective, it's always difficult to say which summer they mean. Yes, they also didn't write a year, probably, I don't know, 2030 or something. So Hamburg Airport doesn't really fit in either. Probably because the conditions and terms are different and people are not traveling as much anymore. But it was crowded. I must say, the airport was quite busy that day. People were on the move. So from that perspective, it is certainly a good business for those who are currently doing business there. Because I saw that one pizza after another was going out, and of course, there is a lack of staff. So, that means the tables need to be cleared as they were all full again. Then people do it themselves. It is an unsatisfactory situation. And let's say the following about it again. When the airport is so crowded, but they actually do not have the staff, the airport should be held accountable and should even be punished for making more departures than it is actually capable of handling. That's why we are waiting so long. We are waiting to make it clear and obvious only because Hamburg Airport sells many more flights, meaning it sells many more slots, than it actually has staff to handle all the people who are flying with these slots and these airlines. If the airport were to only handle half of the departures, for example, there would also be enough staff available. And that is exactly the problem in the lounges as well, meaning there are more departures. And now I come to the Priority Pass lounge, namely at Hamburg Airport, where it is said that when I enter as a Priority Pass member, I don't have to pay anything, but I do pay for a membership, or I have a credit card that includes it. The other guests who go to the lounge pay $45. And now let's get to the facts. $45 for a lounge that only offers about 20% of what it officially sells is an unsatisfactory situation. Additionally, a new airline is coming to the airport and they will all be packed into the lounge. This means that there is too little staff and too little material available to serve everyone at the same time. And once again, we don't go to a lounge because we have time and want to relax there, but we go to a lounge to quickly refresh ourselves and grab a little something to eat. Everything must be available now and not, we will refill that later. And then the replenishment of these dishes comes a quarter of an hour later. Then it is too late, because by then most people have to go to the plane again. So what can we say roundabout about the topic of Hamburg Airport? Hamburg Airport has too many flights, earns too much money, and has too few staff. And in order to be able to provide us with the service, I think it is time to really shed light on a different aspect here. Namely, it is said that Hamburg Airport should also be obligated by the citizens' body to handle not as many airlines, but only half, if they only have staff and resources for that half. And if it does not have that, meaning if it ultimately processes more than it actually has in terms of staff and resources, Hamburg Airport should be required to reduce that. Namely, not only to provide good service, but also to deliver the performance they promise us. A good, quick processing, clearly and distinctly. And that is why it is now time for Hamburg Airport and the management to be urged to take action. And it doesn't matter whether the revenue is there or whether Hamburg in that sense brings in a lot of money as a city. Then Hamburg, if it wants to take all the money, must also ensure that we customers do not go through the check-in like animals and have no proper materials, standing for hours in lines or queues at various check-ins. Instead, Hamburg and the management of Hamburg Airport must ensure that we finally receive good service again, that there are enough staff present, and that the service has a high quality for us. Otherwise, I have to say that Hamburg is still underground and gets a no-go from me.
Above the clouds, the Hon flies. Every destination brings joy to his eyes. He knows